If you're a Christian and I asked you, why are you a Christian, what would you say? The Bible offers so much information that we could include in our answer that it may actually be difficult to articulate how to answer this question. I've started reading the book, The Story of Reality by Gregory Koukl in the Girl Talk Apologetics book discussion, and I've come to realize that there is truly only one way to answer this question, which is, I am a Christian because Christianity is true. In this video, I want to share my favorite point in each of the first 5 chapters of this book. Although the foreword by Nancy Pearcey is very insightful as well, she explains how this book serves as a great storyline for what the Bible ultimately is all about, and makes the point that although it is true that Jesus did die to pay the penalty for our sins, we as Christians can make the mistake of only sharing this with others while not explaining the whole story of the Bible. In the preface, Greg states the obvious that many of us may take for granted. There are reasons for the way things are. And who best to explain to us this than the author himself of this story of reality, God? In chapter 1, Greg explains that this story of reality is not like a fairy tale. The reason being because it is true. So, what is Christianity? He says, Christianity is a picture of reality. It is an account or a description or a depiction of the way things actually are. In fact, all religions tell a story of reality. Every philosophy and individual outlook on life is a take on the way someone thinks the world actually is. However, all worldviews are not equal. Some do better at explaining many things, especially the important things, in a way that is consistent with our normal encounters with the world. This is how we have confidence that a story is accurate or true. Chapter 2 mentions that every worldview has 4 elements: creation, fall, redemption, and restoration, which answer these questions. Where did we come from? What is our problem? What is the solution? How will things end for us? In other words, Christianity is the story of how the world began, why the world is the way it is, what role we play in the drama, and how all the plot lines of the story are resolved in the end. Chapter 3 points out that the Christian story is different from other stories in that it does not start with words like once upon a time, because it is not meant to be understood as a fairy tale or a myth. Also, when we say Christianity is true, we don't mean true for me, but true to reality. It is history, not fiction. One of the deepest questions we have about our world is, what went wrong? Why is our world broken, and how can it be fixed? There are some that think that everything is simply belief, and there is nothing you can actually know. But actually, there are a lot of things we know, and we know that we know them. For example, maps represent a belief about what a piece of the world is like and can be tested to see if that belief is correct. And our beliefs about reality are like that. We constantly test them to see if they match up with the world. When they do, we know our beliefs are true. This is also why people that do not believe there is truth will never take the Christian story seriously as the true story it claims to be. When people believe in multiple truths like this is your truth or this is my truth, it is just another way of saying that there is no story at all. Instead, there are just a bunch of stories that are not any more reliable than others, which I should point out includes the story that claims there is no truth. Chapter 4 talks about 2 obstacles for Christians and non-Christians, which can explain why some people have walked away from Christianity. Simply put, they fail to understand the story. Here are 2 obstacles. The first obstacle has 2 parts. So the first part, discovery that things are not right in this world. The second part, why doesn't God prevent or fix it if He is so good and powerful? This can cause people to wonder if there really is a God. Skeptics use this argument against God. But Christians can also stumble over this obstacle, since some Christians are taught that if God were truly good and we were truly good Christians, we would be shielded from the hardships others endure. Or that when hardships do come, Jesus would be their bridge over troubled waters, keeping them from harm. This skeptic and Christian confusion shows how little is understood of the story of Christianity as a whole. Contrary to popular belief, evil is not a problem for Christianity. Christianity actually addresses the problem of evil, and it is a very crucial part of the story, which goes into great detail in explaining how the world went bad and how it gets fixed. When people believe that God does not exist because of the problem of evil, they might not realize that nothing is really solved by removing God. The world is still broken, and atheism does not provide a better explanation or solution. Because how can something go wrong when there was no right way for it to be in the first place? The second obstacle addresses the question, if there is a heaven, how do I get there? Some people may struggle with the Christian answer being that there's only one way to heaven, according to Jesus and the Christians in the Common Era that promoted this narrow view, that Jesus is the only way because Jesus is the author of it. God even addressed this issue much earlier than that when he gave his people the first commandment, which did not allow the worship of any other gods. Even the label Christian was not the label the followers of Jesus initially used of themselves. Rather, they called their group the Way. Some people may think that Jesus' claim to be the only way is arrogant, full of bigotry, or exclusive, damning some people to hell. But actually, the brokenness of the world and the unique role of Jesus are connected, since it is Jesus' role that solves the world's brokenness. So, the two most controversial aspects of Christianity that can lead some people away from God actually make complete sense once you understand the story's big picture. And in the 5th chapter, learning about God is compared to learning a new language. When you learn a new language, you start with the basics and build on them. You don't learn by reading the first page of the dictionary and reading through it in order. In the same way, when you are starting to learn about God, the Christian story won't make much sense if you read the Bible from the first page to the last, in that order. Instead, it's better to start with the basics as well, the foundational concepts, and build on them. We first need to understand the story's basic outline and then go from there. So, this is the plotline and timeline of the Christian story. God, man, Jesus, cross, resurrection. God created everything from nothing, including man. Human beings got themselves into trouble. God initiated a rescue plan and entered the world he created by becoming a human being like us. Jesus did something that culminated on a cross. How people respond to what he did will determine what will happen to them at the final event of history, the resurrection. My overall takeaways from these chapters are that we should be more intentional about learning more about the Christian story as a whole. We should also engage in more conversations addressing the two obstacles that might keep people from believing in God, instead of avoiding them and not thinking about them. And we should be more bold about how we communicate to others about our faith. Saying that Christianity is true to non-Christians may seem intimidating at times because of how they might respond to us, but since the Bible speaks with such authority, and that is what we believe, we should embrace speaking confidently with respect and love, no matter the consequences like mockery, judgment, or even losing our reputation or friendships. That sounds like carrying our cross and following Jesus, doesn't it? The next chapters will go more into detail about this story, and I personally highly recommend this book. The chapters are short, but they have so much information in each page, and it still feels like an easy read. And if you are a lady, I want to invite you to join us Tuesdays as we discuss this book on our Zoom discussions. It's a good place to learn apologetics and meet some new friends, and I'll leave our website in this video's description. I also plan on sharing more videos like this one, so please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.